program. So before we move on to, well, before I do that, let's sort of remind ourselves what we've done yesterday a little bit. We've sort of delved quite deep into some of those building blocks or some of those basic concepts related to macroeconomic analysis, and we had the opportunity to have a brief introduction to the 4 sectors that you would always use when you're doing your macroeconomic analysis. We extended the discussion obviously to explain how even sectoral analysis to some extent is linked to that framework, and we delved in a bit more detail on the real sector. And I think one of the conclusions that came out of the real sector, this is one of the sort of the core of any economy, is what is actually happening in your economy. And it's very important to understand, so one, the sectors, but within those sectors, the economic agent. So I do hope this was, as I said, we introduced quite a number of concepts which are already existing in the case of Nigeria and elsewhere as well. And without, when you're doing even your sectoral analysis in terms of your budget, in terms of your MTEF, or any other analysis in terms of specifically with your capital projects, etc. Underneath all that partial analysis, I call it, there is this macroeconomic setup. Those sectors, they're influencing them. So that was one of the conclusions we left it with. Obviously, there are lots of identities, lots of parameters. So as per the program, if you're quite happy with that, like we normally do is we have sort of developed something. This is what I was trying to find out, whether they've actually printed all my stuff this morning. I'm not sure they have, but I've managed to get whatever bits and pieces we could use. So I would, if you're happy to do that, I'm not so sure, it's up to you. I would have liked you to probably work in groups, rather than me just introducing concept. So maybe just take a pause this morning. It was supposed to happen yesterday, but we were running out of time from Monday, Tuesday, etc. So it doesn't matter. So if you're happy to work in groups of 4, it's more about just testing, being sure. So it's a mixture of 2 elements. One would be some instructions in terms of looking at some tables and making some inferences, using your smartphone to do a little bit of computation, not complicated, simple ratios, whatever it is, because you have a calculator in your, I'm sure everybody has a smartphone. So in the old days, we had to bring the computers or calculator, so you have it. And I'm going to give you some information. I mean, you're already from Nigeria, but Mr. Nasir gave me some information on Nigeria. So it's a bit, one is a core, and then link it to Nigeria. So there would be a very simple question about just comparing this with that, this with that. So something about inflation, something about GDP, and how does that compare, something about GDP deflator, all the concept, or most of the concept that we've sort of used yesterday. That could be probably the only chance you have to actually try your hand, because once you leave here, you're going back to your bread and butter, and I'm not so sure you'll get an opportunity to actually take a calculator and use it. So it's not about testing you, it's more about building your confidence in what it is. You happy with that?
Yes.
Right? So I'll give you, as I said, I would have liked to get more information, but communication with the printing. But I have probably enough. So it will have to be, I suggest the group would be very easy, so we just do it like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure whether Mr. Nasir, you are technically excused, so you don't need to participate, but you may be the supervisor to ensure that they're doing the work. So if I get some help just to circulate that. Raji, have you want to join the group? You want to join one of the groups? Okay, there must be a group that didn't get this grocery. Let's check this one. I've managed to get one in my bag also, so now each group should have one copy. So this is more for reference, because most of those concepts are known to you, but in case you wanted to get some clarification. But we will obviously put that on the website for you to get the full copy, right? But it seems they haven't printed enough, so that's it. And then also what you've got is few documents. I wanted a bit more, but I didn't see the printing, so it must be lost somewhere. But there's enough document which they have printed about from CBN, from the budget, and from, I was looking for this country strategy paper, I couldn't find it. But I believe there's enough document there for you to look and extract those information about Nigeria. And there's this saying that, well, you're all from Nigeria, but it's not easy just to remember the figures at the top of your head, you know. So I wanted you to, so as an excuse basically, to look at your own documents, basically that exercise, and compare it with that fictitious economy. Those data that you're finding in that case study are just a fictitious economy. It's a case study that has been produced for training, etc. So you'll see that the currency is lira, whatever. You just forget about that. It's more about the concept, right? And you'll see that I've asked just simple questions there. Fill in those missing figures to the extent that you can. You don't need to do all of them. Once you've got the concept right, you can move to the next one. If you want to do more, that's fine. But then make some inferences. What does that mean in terms of the question? And then make comparison with Nigeria.
That's the idea. So we're supposed to work at it.
And given that you're in a group, so obviously you can discuss within yourselves, because this is not like an exercise to come first, it's more about understanding.
What do you have for the first one? What do you have for the
'Cause when it comes to calculations, whenever in real life, I mean, this is just something that you normally do, but I found it very easy sometimes when I don't understand a concept. I try to use one which has been given and find out how it has been done, and then you get it, right? And sometimes on the growth rate, those of you who use growth rate every day, you understand how to use the calculator, but there are a long way of using it, you know. When you're taking a small figure divided by a big figure, to get the growth rate, in case you need any help, you just minus 1 multiply, always minus 1. Take one figure, divide by the other figure, minus 1, multiply by 100, then you get the figure, okay? Just another.
Which is what I did. And I divided by this and multiplied by 100. Minus 89.4. Then, and I used up to just.
I was going to equals for this.
And I divide by 89.4.
Yeah, still getting that.
Yeah. Sometimes there are some deliberate discrepancy there. Yeah. So on that one, I would say yes. I would. There could be discrepancy there deliberately. So. So I would use the old ones. accountant, you will find that there are certain things. Sometimes with national accounting, which I did mention yesterday, some tables you're going to see there are what they call discrepancy. They adjust it. Sometimes rounding, etc., etc.
Was that the real GDP was showing a kind of positive trend for 94 and 95, but after our computation, we discovered some variances that recorded negative, and it shows that some particular sectors of the economy at that particular time were not working well. And then if you look at the contribution of those sectors, you will see that from 1991, 92, 93, such as the agriculture, industry, manufacturing, and the rest, you will see that in 91, like take for instance the agri sector, it was 14.049, 92, it increases, 93, it also increases, 94, it shows a decrease in 1994, and in 1995 again it jumped up. So what we'll be looking at is the factor why it decreased in 1994. Well, from our group and from our discussion, we discovered that the government did not give much attention to these various sectors of the economy in that very year. Maybe as a result of a shift towards oil, because of the oil that is on ground, the government decided to depend much on oil as its source of revenue.
Ghana.
Sir?
Ghana, right? So that is Ghana.
Okay, well, yeah, example of that is Ghana, but we're talking about Nigeria now. Let's just refer to our own economy, even though it's an assumed economy that we are dealing with. But you could see that in that very year, the government shifted attention from these very sectors that are meant to have maybe raised revenue to the government. What we're looking at is the GDP as a whole, not just budget, because the budget itself is just a small aspect of the GDP. So it's looking at the sectors of the economy that contribute to the GDP itself, and that is what gives us the real GDP of the economy. And that is what happened in that very year, 1994. Then in 1995,
Very restricted.
yes, sir. Number one. Then I just made the reference to that's great. Then in 1995, there's a little bit improvement. There was a little bit improvement. If you observe, you will see that the indices again in 1995 show some positive response to the economy. Maybe, of course, when the government discovered that its source of revenue, all the other sources are not moving well, or that the domestic aspect of the economy is not performing well, they decided to go back to some certain basics to see how they were going to divide maybe the industries that were not functioning, the agricultural sector itself that they have neglected, and then the other, or maybe the service sector, which includes maybe trade, restaurants, hotels, transportation, and the other things. They decided to revisit those areas to see that the economy picked up. Well, sir, for now, that is what I want to say.
Moving in that economy, the level of prices. Can you make any inference from table 1 about pricing? What would you use normally to make some inference about the trend in prices? But your per capita income is not growing. Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, This is important. You may find that your GDP is growing very well, but when you're doing your computation in terms of per capita, you find that the per capita income is not growing that fast. So that also is a possibility. Yes or no?
Yes.
And why would that be?
Population increase.
Exactly. So it could be that there is a dramatic change of growth in population, which was probably not anticipated, or maybe it was anticipated. So then it takes a bit longer for you to get a higher per capita income. That's pretty clear, right? Because population in itself now is reducing your per capita income, not necessarily GDP. So there are two elements there. GDP itself, by not growing as fast, would not make your per capita income grow fast, but it could also be a possibility that the population is growing too fast, or fast. I don't say too fast, but we don't know this economics, whether maybe the population is low, so they have made against, contrary to what China was doing in 20, 30 years ago, maybe this country is trying to increase the population. Like, in Europe, they are facing a different type of problem. Aging population. In Japan, aging population. That's why, for example, when you heard the German Chancellor once about serious crisis, she wanted about 1 million or more people.
800,000 students.
Yes. So she wanted people to come in because the Germans were, when you look at the age population, they were not the new breed of employees would not be there, etc. So these two elements is important. Just I wanted to raise that. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Then I wanted to consider the proportion of the unemployed in the population. Can that contribute to
not necessarily scale, but let's say unanticipated. So we know we had 16 people here, including me, 17. But then suddenly we got about 5 more people coming, right? So that 5 people coming in, so would definitely reduce the share of the cake that you're going to get. So that's our per capita. So the per capita income, you would expect it to, somebody would say, oh, my GDP is growing well, so I would expect my per capita income to grow. But then there is this other element because you're comparing it in terms of, you're dividing that cake by population. But the population itself has grown. In our case, by 5. In the case of this country, it's growing. So not here, but it could have grown faster. So then suddenly you see your per capita income not growing. So when you're making those type of analysis, so it's not one dimension, So it's always something else that you need to look at. The danger sometimes when we look at analysis, we are so used to just saying, oh, it's going up, it's going down. If it's going down, that is because GDP is then somebody is going to turn around and say, no, you're wrong. GDP has been growing at a healthy rate, but it's something else. You know what I mean? All right, so let's thank you very much for this comment. So let's move on to number 2, and again, as brief as we can, but meaningful comment on number 2.
The first one was trying to fill out, which would be for 1994, and the second question was to comment on the structure of this economy in terms of the sectoral contribution to GDP. As you can see in the sectoral distribution of GDP, we can see that here we do have 3 sectors, namely agriculture, industry, and services. From 1992, in 1992 actually, the data we have here is that agriculture is contributing 16.4% of the GDP. That of 91 is 16.7, which means that there is a fall in the percentage of agricultural distribution to GDP of 0.30%. And that of 1993 is 15.0, and 94 that we calculated is 15.7%. This means that the trend actually that it goes is not that much. Actually, 1991 to 1992 we had a little bit of a downward trend, and 92 to 93 we had a downward trend as well. But then in 1994, agriculture picked up to 0.7%, which moves a little bit upward. In 1995, we did not calculate it, so I'm thinking, I'm not aware of this, so actually I can't comment on that. Moving to industry, we had 1991, we had a value of 27.2%, and that of 1992 is 27.1, 93 27.2, 94 is 27.1 as calculated. This means that there's not much of a change actually. 0.1, not much significant change. So moving to have time to discuss about it. Thank you.
petroleum industry here than the services in this place. In this place, services contribute more. That is, of which trade, restaurant, hotels, transportation, communication, and co. They made more impact in the economy. But if it's in Nigeria here, the true color of what we have in Nigeria here, industry ought to have been on the high side.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Just one more comment. Yeah.
Actually, like the comment he made, we can't make any say anything about Nigeria since we don't have the data present. So that the thing that you just talked about, I think some days ago, is we should always work on facts. Since we don't have the data, I think we should just silent and work on that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So when we are looking at the level of consumption in this particular country, consumption is as a result of two main components that when you look at, you see the gross fixed capital formation and there's the change in stocks. And over the years, you can look at from 1991, we've had a positive trend from 1991 to 92 to 93. And what we observed in this economy is that generally in the year 1994, there was a downward trend in the growth rate, which affected all sectors of that economy. So, and that is reflected in most of the analysis done in 1994 particularly. Almost all contributions have been in the negative value. So when you look at the contribution of the stocks to the investments component, you find out in 1991 you have minus 6.2, and there was an upward trend to 4.0 in 92, then to 2.1, a significant increase in 93 to 21.6%. But then in the same 94, you recorded a minus 121%, showing you that that economy in 1994 was really bad. We don't have any reason to see why it was bad, but from all sectors you can see that we really had a very bad year in 1994. Then when we look at the level of consumption, we're concentrating on investment. Our question is on investment. Then we're looking at the level of investments in that economy. Then we look at the portion, the contribution of investments against the national peak. Okay, and besides, before I go further, it's observed that the economy is an open economy because definitely they have some level of activity on imports and exports, so which means they are an open economy. So the level of investment you can see, it's 22.7% for 1991. Going to 1992 is 23.4%. Then 1993 is 26.6%. 1994 it recorded a slight decline to 21.3%. This clearly shows you that this is a consumption economy. They consume a lot more than they save. So it is an economy that is living basically at the subsistence level, maybe farmers, it's a small economy. So what we can say clearly is that it is not an investment-friendly country, definitely. It's a consumption country. They spend more than 80% of what they earn consuming. And how does this relate with the Nigerian contribution? I would suggest that I don't have the figures, but Nigeria is a consumption country. So
But if you turn back and you look at your screen, what would you then say?
Nigerian consumption.
That was there for 45 minutes. Percentage of GDP. I was trying to help you rather than reading it.
Okay. Investment 15.
Because of the year.
Okay, on the level of savings versus investments, the ratio is about 80 to 20. So which shows you that there is it's leaning more towards consumption than savings. It's basically, as I've said earlier, it's a consumption country and which leaves very little for the productive sector to borrow and invest.
Thank you very much.
You cannot find the reason why it does changes occur.
Well, if it was you, there are two issues here I would answer it. One is you are constrained by time. Number two, you are constrained by the fact that I've given you only few tables, so which means that you don't have the information. But thirdly, more importantly, if you were doing it for Nigeria, there should be no reason why you could block it. There's nothing in your analysis that you can't explain. if, for example, you who's working on that, you have your digest of statistics, you have your source of information from so many places, and you can request the information in case you don't have it, you can get the breakdown. There's no reason why you should not be able to explain. So there's nothing. In my mind, if you're doing for Nigeria, there can be nothing and nothing that you can't explain. But there could be something where you can't explain is that when a policy has stopped working, that could be difficult. Because then you say, well, I've done by what the book says. I'm supposed to boost the economy by this, but yet it's not growing. Then sometimes you say, well, I can't explain. So if somebody else says, why has it not worked? You would be able to explain where it has not worked. So it could be like an agricultural sector that you can use GDP deflator, and you try your hand, and you can use CPI. And also, I suspect even in Nigeria, there must be, could have other indices which are used, right? People use a different type of index, indices for different purposes. You could have wholesale price index, etc. But CPI is the one which is very useful for calculating the level of price changes in the economy. But for the GDP, we use the GDP deflator, which is again the difference between GDP in nominal terms and the GDP in constant prices. And now, so a few comments generally. So what we've seen so far is my idea was not for you to test whether you could use a calculator or not, far from it. So it was more to give you an idea about those relationships and the importance of getting the data right. But secondly, it's not about getting the data. You are going to realize that if you ask for information, and if people realize that NAGRO is serious, like you are, you will definitely get the data. I heard some comment initially when we were talking about data sometimes become painful or whatever, but that's probably just an administrative issue. But there's plenty of data, I suspect, in Nigeria. Your problem would be how to take those data, organize it in a way that can make sense out of it. For me, that has always been an issue. So the normal is get your data, request data, but then organizing it. Get rid of what you don't get at the moment. Organize the data in such a way that you can make sense of it. And when I say organize, is you need some data in nominal terms, and you need to look at the values. So, but also you need to get some indicators, some ratios, so you have to do it, right? And luckily for you here, you won't be the one doing it, because you are reviewing other people's work. So sometimes it's always good to understand how they come up with that data, or you could even ask them for some information. And the only way you can ask them for information, which they have presented in the annex of their report, is only when you know what is the core data they are using, right? So by looking at it today like that, so you will have it, I hope, gradually, you will get a pretty good idea. Then when you realize that the DMO or whoever has given you information, let's say the one that has prepared the MTech for you, you might just say, well, I would have liked to get a bit more breakdown along those lines. So what I mean? But organizing the information is important. It is there. The core data is there. And this is, for example, here you can see what those guys in Washington have done, or they've actually taken all your information and they've created something. The real GDP, they want to look at the contribution of oil and gas, they put that here, non-oil and oil GDP, because they want to look at, you can see what they're looking here. They're trying to differentiate between the contribution of oil and the contribution of non-oil sector immediately. Then they put something here just to say that is for what is the level of production, which is, again, when you read the literature, you're going to see they're going to mention that. And obviously nominal GDP is there, the GDP deflator that we know about is there, the non-oil deflator, so they're looking at now as a pricing. Because what has happened here, oil is volatile, okay? Because oil is volatile, they want to look at what is happening to the rest of the economy. So not only the oil deflator, but let's look at the non-oil. So can you put yourself in the mind of those analysts there? They want to see something which is different. So they don't just want to lump everything, oil, non-oil together. So that's why they've done it. So there is always a reason. Obviously, and obviously, consumer price index. And you can see those two, which is section 5. Your 5, you had two CPIs. There was CPI annual average, and then CPI end of period. But sometimes it's very good to do that type of analysis. End of period, it tells you that what is the CPI at that time, at the end of December, end of period. But sometimes you want to get an average over the period, especially when there are movement, huge movement so you get an average price that prevailed in Nigeria over 2050. Okay, so that's what they looked at. And I leave it to you. In this case, I can't see too much of a difference in 2014, but 2015 it's 9 and 9.6. You see, but they use that. You know, you would find also sometimes with exchange rate they use it. We use it. And I use it. Average exchange rate. Or sometimes I use beginning of period exchange rate or end of period exchange rate. So don't be surprised when you see that. So there is a reason why we normally do that. And you can see there they've put a lot of information here just by computation. This is what I mean by that, organizing the information and producing ratios indicators, computing like share, etc. You do that. That's the thing that you, and if they don't give it to you, you ask. Because sometimes just giving you the value, if you look at this circular flow of income, production, income, etc. So we're bringing the government and we're a bit more formal now. And we're reusing some of the slides that I've used because why create more slides, but we'll have some more explanation. And obviously analyze in detail the budgetary framework, the revenue item, the expenditure item, the concept. And that is why I'm saying you're an expert on that. So I don't expect to talk a lot on that. Financing the deficit. I have explained to you the financing before, but we'll probably spend a bit more time. But I'll talk a little bit about, it's not here, the cash accounting, the accrual accounting. Then briefly talk about the MTEF. Okay, so that's what I intend to do. So just as I would usually do, I have some blah 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 at the beginning. I'm reiterating what the government sector comprises. I'm reminding you that when you're talking about this government sector, though most of the time we focus on federal, central government, just be aware that the whole government, the whole public sector goes beyond that. So I intend, again, when we come back to talk a little bit about this, I'll produce some data from the subnational in terms of, because I've managed to find some information about which is useful in terms of how do you move from central from the central to state level in terms of policies, etc. So we'll do a little bit more on the subnational. I think your analysis, the sectoral analysis and everything relies probably a lot on what the subnational is doing or not willing to do. Mindful of the fact that this is a federal structure. Okay, so just reminding you about that. Government, that you know, taxes, spends, etc., etc. We've spoken about here whether how big the government should be, how small, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But the most important thing is that to reiterate the point that government has a role to play. On the right there, it can influence economic activity. It doesn't do the economic activity itself, but it influences the economic activity. It improves the welfare and creates the right environment for the economy to grow faster. And that is the expectation, right? Personally, I'm not into finding governments that are taking production by doing this type of activity, because that's not their job. Their job, they have a very clear mandate to do it. And your recognition as government is very much accepted. And like we've seen a little bit on the GDP, you've seen in the Nigerian GDP by production, by value added, you've seen public administration there, that's the government sector. The government sector's contribution is significant. And what we don't want to see is that obviously too big. You need a government sector, but too big is not necessarily the right way. But this means that one has to evaluate, why is it big? Is it big because it's needed, or is it big because somebody else is not doing their job? In the old days, it used to be like that. I do remember even in Nigeria where a lot of activities that belong to Ministry of Finance was being done by the central bank. I don't know whether you remember that those times. That was a time, and that is not uncommon across many countries. My own country, wherever I used to travel. I've worked a lot in Tanzania. So I hope it's a bit better. I don't understand what I'm talking about. But you can see here the government to provide the public goods, G, and the public good. The G is this education, health, infrastructure, right? So you can see now it's not abstract. It's your GDP. It's your investment that you're evaluating. How much money is Nigeria providing in education? That's an injection in the economy. The amount that the service that the government is providing in terms of health education, that becomes like an injection, because government expenditure, right? Instead of your expenditure, it's government expenditure. Okay? Yeah, on the other hand, the government is taxing because it needs the money. So the only way you can get the money is by taxing. So, and if the government is in deficit, like we've seen before, and that's where, for example, we'll go and this is the thing is that lending to the government. So basically, it's here. Who's lending? The lending is coming from the financial market, right? So it comes. Okay. And if you have the time to start looking at it, you will see everything that I've said here has a line somewhere, right? Given that I'm mentioning that, do you see the line here? Do you follow that line?
Yes.
And that's the line which is explaining it here. That's the line. So every line has an explanation here. So sometimes I don't do it because I don't have time, but every explanation, I've given more explanation so that when you have time yourself to look at it. But this is exactly how you should interpret that diagram. And obviously here, it's the identity, which we used yesterday. Your consumption, your investment, the government, the G, different color, your export, which is equivalent to your income and the tax, which I also used yesterday. Okay? And that's never going to change, except if one day somebody discovers a new way of computing. The system of national accounting has been there for quite a lot of time. They make small changes, but they're not going to make dramatic changes. So that one, if you master that, if you get used to that, it will always be useful to you to understand your Nigerian economy. Always. Including your government sector. Right? We've seen that before, so I'm not going to talk about that. So, some explanation here. Have you, anybody made reference to, in the past, to the government finance statistics, GFS? Have you seen that? Right? Yes. Everything that comes to you, all the tables that come from the budget department, all the MTEP tables that come, these are not created by Nigeria. These are borrowed from the international standards, and this is the GFS, right? These are, again, nomenclatures that have been used. Obviously, what Nigeria does, it takes it adapts it in a way, because there are things that are called economic classification, functional classification. So when you divide it, when you look at line items that of expenditure, these items sometimes are broken down locally because you're reflecting your own source of income or your source of expenditure. It is right in the same way that yesterday I was talking about Isaac, and you know now Isaac. You've seen that this morning, agriculture, manufacturing. This is the Isaac, which is coming from the system of national account. Here also the GFS gives you that. So again, once you look at it, so behind it, there's a lot of explanation.